co-workers. Thanks, Ash. What have you been unwilling to forgive? Does anybody want to jump in and be really with the spotlight on them this morning? Because we get real here, guys. So everybody's got forgiveness. There's not one thing that anybody is carrying around here.
I have one, Peggy. You're welcome. Good morning, everybody. Enjoy your coffee. I guess long ago, my daughter's 12 now, but when she was around 3 years old, I had her in a dancing program, and I was a volunteer parent. And when I volunteered, I made sure after the show, every little child would be claimed appropriately by their parent. So one year I said, I'm not going to volunteer. I'll let all the parents do their thing, give them a turn, and I'll enjoy the show. But when I went back after the show, my little girl was left crying by herself. And one of my good mom friends was in charge of her. And she abandoned her when her husband came to pick her daughter up. She just left. So my little girl at the time was way more shyer than she is now. And it drove me to tears. It drew me to tears because there was one elderly grandparents there who were actually trying to calm her down, and God bless them, because if it weren't for that, and there were tons of parents, there were hundreds surrounding and going back and forth and shuffling. And when I saw her in the corner just crying, it just brought me to tears, because I would never let that happen to any of the kids when I was volunteering. And it's hard for me. I still speak to the parent. We hang out and stuff, but deep inside, I haven't been able to let go of that. And so I don't trust her as much as I did years ago with my daughter, because I feel like she'll abandon her even at 12, 13, 25. I don't, so it's hard to figure. That's the one thing. Of course, we have other, but that is the one thing that eats at me the most, because we do see each other, and every time we see each other, I think of that. And I care for her daughter, but she doesn't care for my daughter the same way. So it's one of the people that I'm willing to just let go of.
Dee Dee, move on.
Yeah.
If you don't know, like, and trust somebody, it doesn't mean you have to become great friends with them. Just put them aside and find somebody else.
Thank you for that.
Forgiveness versus forgetting are two different things.
Thank you, Sammy.
I forgive because that's my nature and that's my, religious training. But I don't forget, because you also don't want to have it repeat itself. But I still follow the same situation where my sisters get to me and they do stupid things, and I just move on because life is too short. But I try not to forget and have it happen again.
That's true, and that's what I'm afraid of it happening. And thank you for that, and thank you for allowing me to share. Everybody,
don't live in fear.
Yeah,
that is a crippling emotion.
Yes, it is, and every time she's present, it cripples me in that. And she's the only one that does that to me because of that incident. And my little girl. Go ahead, Peggy.
How many years ago?
Oh, well, my daughter's 12 now. My daughter was 3 at the time, and she never leaves my side. I always volunteered. It was the one day, and I said, please look after her like I look after yours, because she's so shy, and she was so used to, it was brave of her to let go of me to go watch the show. So the one day that I did that, she was left alone, and she was crying, petrified. So that brought me to tears, and I just never, until this day, I just don't leave her, still don't leave her with anybody. That one day I did. Broke my heart. But anyway, that's it's hard for me to let go of that. Really hard for me to let go of that.
And I appreciate you sharing on that, because that's a lot, guys. That really is a lot. Kevin, you put a book up there as well.
I was just mentioning that Brad held up the book Do the Work, which is by Stephen Pressfield. So I was mentioning what the 2 books were that he had held up.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Well,
that is a great book. It is a great book.
Which one?
Do the Work.
Do the Work. Great. So what we like
Do the Work that we have it's by Gary John Bishop as well, though. The same
Yes.
author as Unfuck Yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. Then I had in my head a different book. I appreciate you clarifying that, Brad. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
So what I love about this group is the honesty and what we bring to it, and sharing just our books, our thoughts, our resources. And that takes a lot to talk about what you just talked about. And, you know, if anybody here has something that they always want to talk offline, we're available. But we're going to get right into, good morning, Ashley. We wanted to bring you some objection handling and put you kind of in the spotlight, because the market's changing, right? Some agents have never experienced expired listings. Some agents have never had to go and ask for a price reduction. Some agents have fear of rejection and don't want to talk to someone about, you know, attraction. So we wanted to throw it out to you. And Ashley, you know, you've been a market center administrator, you've been with EXP, you've been on the executive team at EXP, you've got a huge history. And you hear so many things. Agents will come into your office and, you know, it was kind of a safe place. And what are some of the things that you think we might cover in terms of objection handling? Or what do you hear with, you're out selling too. What do you hear with clients on objections? It just doesn't have to be about agents, buyers, sellers.
I think the biggest thing that we can be prepared for objection handlers is education. I think it's the lack of information, whether it's a buyer, seller, or an agent you're talking to, trying to, you know, bring them over or any of that. I think so many people are not informed. And I think it's about being able to give them the information to make them feel better or more informed, so that they're not, you know, just making a decision because someone told them to, or because, you know, they don't know what to do. So they're just trusting or doing the first thing that they heard or something like that. So I think knowing what the current market is, knowing what the current, you know, issues are, or whatever that is, or the changes, like who here actually read their email? Because I was shocked I saw this, because I don't read emails. But that EXP had to increase the transaction fee for risk management. So it's no longer $40, it's $60 per transaction, with a cap of $750 a year instead of $500 a year. So that information seems like very insignificant, but there, I promise you, there will be agents 2 years from now still quoting the $40 transaction fee, because they don't stay informed with new information and they hold on to what they previously knew. And so that one little thing can make or break someone, because there's nothing worse than getting to a new brokerage, having someone have their first transaction, and then the surprise, guess what? So they got charged more by the broker on their commission than what they were expecting. That is the fastest way to lose trust with someone, is their money, right? So I think it's things like that, where rates, or, you know, even just small things with homeowner associations, like those little things can add up and make or break the relationship with someone. So to me, it's always been staying informed, right? I absorb knowledge, I retain knowledge. That's my gift in life. And so I try to use that as much as possible to overcome any objections, because I think that's where I was talking to one of the top, 30 influencers a couple weeks ago. And we were talking about attraction and how difficult it is. And it really is like running a brokerage yourself. And so for a lot of agents who are doing it at a high level, they've only ever been an agent before. And so they don't really know how to run and operate the brokerage on the back end. And so they have a very limited perspective of what that entails, and supporting agents, and, you know, all the things that it takes. And so he was saying, well, it's only worth, this much for someone to help me. And I was, coming back with, you're getting, 7 people for the price of one in the example that we were talking about in this specific scenario. And I'm like, you are trying to run and operate a company and a brokerage with one person. That's never going to be sustainable with thousands of people, right? You have to have a full-on team. You have to have a full-on staff and treat it like a business, because it's an entirely different animal. It's not just recruit and then life goes on, you get paid. You have to maintain them. And EXP is the broker, don't get me wrong, but they're never, because we're cloud-based, because we're so large, they're never going to be able to support your agents at the level that you will need to. So anyway, those are just a couple of things that I kind of believe, that knowledge is power, right? And the more you know, the easier it is to handle those objections, because you're prepared with all of the information and not just like, tripping over yourself trying to find it at the time, in the moment, right? So I think that's what's so important about staying on top of and going to the events, because that's where all of that new information comes out and is discussed and announced. And, even just for that, it's worth it, because I stay on top of all of those little things that are constantly changing. So that's my approach when it comes to objection handling. But what we really wanted to do was have someone volunteer as tribute. And Daniel, I was stealing from, Tanya's not here today, but stealing from our model in our coaches group of who wants to be in the hot seat. And so Tanya does a thing where we volunteer to be in the hot seat for the week, and we come with a problem that we're experiencing in our business, and everyone else volunteers and rallies and supports and says, here's a potential solution. Try this, try that. Have you done this? And it's an amazing thing, because it also validates that you're not alone, because other people are saying, oh, that happened to me. Oh, I did this. This is, So Daniel, I saw you come off mute. Do you want to volunteer as tribute?
Sure. I'm happy to be in the hot seat. I
like
seem
it.
to live on the hot seat at home. So it's right up my alley. So I think, the two biggest things I'm struggling with are, one, so I like to learn, and it helps with my confidence. And so, especially when I was a newer agent for years, it was like I would watch like one Gary Keller video every single day. Just I'm not that smart, so I have to read the book like 3 times to understand it. And I would just read and learn as much as I could, and then that would help my confidence, and that would help with recruiting and building the business. But I can't seem to get my team to want to learn like that. And so when we have meetings, I'm ready to kind of talk about the next thing, right? And like, hey, we talked about this last week, like, let's build on this, let's get more advanced, because that excites me. It kind of fills my cup. However, I have a tendency to maybe overwhelm people, because the things I want to talk about are kind of in a different place than where they are. And so, I hint at, hey, like, you guys, you should be learning on your own. Like, are you going to EXP trainings? Are you going to the board? Are you watching the videos? Are you doing the webinars? Because your results are not good. Like, our team has not had good results last year. In fact, I made very, very little money last year, which actually does really hurt my confidence and my ability to take care of my family. And so, like, I'm wanting to move faster, but I also feel like I'm leaving people behind at times. And so it's my question is like, what is the best way to deliver that message to people, where it's kind of like, hey, if you want to make it, like, this is kind of part of it. Like, you can only get lucky for so long in real estate. And if you're not going to commit to those extra hours, the late nights, the going to learning, I go to learning events every week. This is a learning event for me that I made a commitment to. And so how do I approach that subject with them, that if they want a professional grade income, they're going to have to learn at a professional grade? And, sometimes I just feel like I'm a freaking broken record around it.
So Daniel, can I ask you a couple questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How many people are on your team?
Around 30.
Around 30. Okay. Do you do a one-on-one with them?
No, not as much. And it's been a habit I fell out of for this very reason, which is we meet, we agree on objectives, and the next meeting, I'm ready to talk about the next thing. But when those objections weren't even close to being met, then I lose interest, right? And so I end up, focusing on recruiting more motivated people instead of trying to motivate the people that are in front of me. So I'm not saying that's the right answer, and that could be part of the problem. But
Yep.
30. Last year we had 35 agents for the most part, and so doing 35 one-on-ones every month, I would do it if I felt like it was fruitful for me and for them. But it just felt like I was in a rut, and so I quit doing them.
So I don't think you have to do them, because as a team leader, there's no way I could do one-on-ones with 200-300 people in an office. However, think about it. If you're running a brokerage at KW, the model was you had your ALC, correct? And you met with your agent leadership council on a regular basis, one-on-one. Ashley's baby is there. I love that dog. So if you could break it down with your top people, because they are the ones that are going to lift you up and support you. And if you sit down and have that conversation, of that big why conversation with them, and then find out if they're willing to have conversations with other people on the team. However, I believe, and this is one of the things we're all finding with retention when we get these big organizations, and agents are feeling a loss that they don't have that one-on-one conversations anymore. So I would suggest following a team leader model, that I get my core group of my team, who are the people that are working at the highest levels, who can actually run as fast as you want to run, and then break it down to your middle group. And then you're always going to have your part-time agents. Touch base with them, give them a phone call, and then collectively run it like a board of directors on your team and get their input and let them know that you really care. And hey, these are my dreams. I want to support you. What are yours? What's your vision? What's your goal? Who else has got some? What do you think of that?
I think it goes back to, go ahead, Daniel.
Well, the other, I guess, part B of the question would be, is I still feel like there's a lot of trauma for the last 2 years, and that trying to get the energy level back for the agents who have just been, we've all been beat down. And so it's trying to kind of get them re-engaged in their business and growing. So yeah, anyways, go ahead, Ashley.
Who here, I'm going a different direction now, but who here has seen Ted Lasso? Anybody?
Love it.
Anybody want to guess what I'm going to tell him? Brad? No?
Believe.
Oh, there you go. No, that's not what I was going to go with, but that's perfect. That's so awesome. I'm going to say you have to teach the agents to be a goldfish. So Ted uses this line in the show of being a goldfish, because goldfish have the shortest memory out of all animals. Out of all animals, they have like a 10-second memory or something. And so when he's coaching the team on the losses and this, all the things, he tells them over and over, be a goldfish, because you're holding on to something. Same thing with you, Dee Dee. You're holding on to something from 9 years ago. That's not serving you or your daughter anymore to still have that trauma response every time you're around that person. And so I know that's impossible. I don't forget anything. I am built like a steel trap, and I remember everything. And that is a blessing and a curse in some ways. But being able to let the feelings go or the trauma go around it is still possible without forgetting what happened, right? And so I think it's important for them to realize that is not the moment that we're in right now. None of that matters, right? That game is over. That, moment is past. What are we doing right now to not let that happen again, right? And so being a goldfish is the only way that you're going to survive this industry, because if you hold on to and don't let go of the past things and the past seasons, you will always be struggling. And so I think that is something that everyone can benefit from. But the other thing I was going to go with was, I think it comes back to the core or the beginning, right? And how much time we invest in the beginning and figuring out who we're working with. Because I think so many of us are just like trying to get warm bodies and just, anybody who raises their hand, instead of spending the time to date that person and really find out if they're a good fit or not. I know we're so tired. Everybody talks about the disc. If I hear the word disc one more time, I'm going to vomit, right? Like, I'm sorry, not sorry. You'll always get the truth with me. I have no filter. Peggy can't stand it sometimes, but to me, it's exhausting, right? I'm like, oh my God, I get it, right? We all get it. However, by skipping some of those things, I think that's why we get to this point, is we're in relationship with people who don't serve us anymore. And not being afraid to let go of them because they're not on the right bus at this point. It's not even about being on the right seat on the right bus. Right. They're not even on the right bus. And maybe you've changed buses since you met them, but it's okay to let them go, right? Because we're not built to be the same person forever and ever. Some people are, and they never, ever change. But most of us are constantly evolving and changing. I'm not who I was at 20 years old when I started at my first brokerage. I'm not who I was 5 years ago, right? And so being able to adapt and change yourself, but also letting other people know and letting other people find who this new version is. And Daniel, I know you've gone through a ton of the work. And so now it's time to find those new people and let go of the ones that aren't willing to come with you on this bus, because it's different. It's a different goal. It's a different journey. And that's really hard sometimes because you love these people and you are in a relationship with them. And it is like a marriage, and marriage is hard. It's really hard. You don't always want to show up. You don't always want to, be the thing. But I think that's where taking the time on the front end to make sure that this is the right person, this is the right bus for them. And are they really going to live up to the expectations? And I talk about expectations a lot, because what you're doing to them, Daniel, is you're putting an expectation on them that you expect yourself, or how you would respond. That's how we're built, right? We expect other people to do the things that we would do and show up how we would show up. They're never going to do that. And so you've got to change the expectation to the level of their capacity, because otherwise you're never going to be happy. Because they're never going to meet your expectation and your level. So I think knowing who they are, knowing and taking the time on the front end to slow down and really identify if they're the right fit. And then also figuring out who they are and what their capacity is. Because I was training this guy one time, and I shit you not, you guys, it was a combination of 50 first dates and Groundhog Day every day for 6 months. 6 months. Homeboy could not remember anything. I mean, he was the goldfish, okay? He was the epitome of a goldfish. He couldn't remember one thing. He would call me and be like, hey, we've never talked about this. I need help with this, specific thing. And I would log into his computer, and he would have notes and screenshots of that exact thing open on his desktop. And he would look me straight in the face and be like, yeah, we've never talked about this. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's right there. Like, how is that possible? And I just finally was like, listen, I had to tell the owner, I was like, I no longer can serve this person. Okay. I am not the person to train him. I don't know how to help him. He can't help himself. I swear he was high every day, but whatever. And so I had to let it go. I literally fired myself from the client because I couldn't work with this guy. I could not make it happen, because freaking goldfish, when you have to remember thousands of things in that role, that is not a good fit. Like, that's just not, a win. And so when I hire people now, that's one of the things I've had to shift over the years is, I don't care what your resume says. I don't care what your skills are, your background. I don't care about any of that. I want to know 3 things. Can you retain information? Because I have literally sent somebody the memory test, because I can't make you remember something. I can't force your brain and your neurons to fire and have perfect recall. I don't expect perfect, but just any recall, right? Like I can't make somebody be that way, but I need that in most of my business, right? I need someone to be able to recall information, and I don't have the time or the patience to wait 6 months for you to get to that point. And then how flexible are you? How adaptable are you to change? Because I think that's why a lot of agents are suffering and aren't coming to the trainings or aren't, because they don't like change. We are not wired that way, and change is hard. But to me, it's change or die. We have to adapt to this market. We have to adapt to, whatever those things are that are happening of, price drops and, expireds and all the things that now matter. It didn't matter 6 months ago, right? We have to do that, or we are going to have to get out of the business like so many do. So anyway, sorry, I went on a
That's
long range
okay.
there.
No, but that's okay. And that's what I think it really comes down to, Daniel, and anybody else that's got people that they're working with, is you need to touch base with them because they've changed too. And their vision, their dreams may not. And not having that conversation is going to hold your business back. It's just like with a buyer or seller. Just because you took a listing and now it's more days on market, what's their expectation? How do you ask for a price reduction? How do you ask somebody, maybe you don't want to be, maybe you're not the right fit for my team. Maybe you need to self-discover. Maybe I'm not the right agent to drive a client around that really has no idea what they want. And I think Ashley and everybody always brings up on this call is setting the expectation and asking those great questions up front. So what are some of the things, and Daniel, thank you for being in the hot spot. For those of you who weren't on, Daniel was one of the first calls, and we always have, I let people in this morning and we're talking. I just want you to know that Daniel, I'm calling this out, Daniel, because you're going to do this. He's lost 15 pounds already, and it is changing his health, his life, all of that. And when you start changing your life and doing what you're doing physically, mentally, emotionally, everything else around you is going to change. So we want to support you on your health journey with that. And
Daniel, you look a lot better, buddy.
Thank you.
Of course,
Thank
Tucker
you.
would be the one. Of course,
I know,
Tucker would be the
Tucker,
one.
yeah.
Oh,
Let's talk
Oh.
about that some more. Thank you for saying that.
Okay,
So I have a follow-up question.
sure.
So somebody left my team, it was like a couple months ago, and he never showed up for like anything, right? So we do huddles every week and we have tons of different training. And this other guy that I just hired to run our company, he was doing, like, he called him and they were talking about like feedback, whatever. And he's like, well, I just felt like the training got to be basic, right? And which really hacked me off because he never showed up for anything. Like, how do you know if our training's basic if you like
Right.
never here, right? So I took it personally a little bit, and then I just thought back and said, okay, do I need to go back to only teaching to the head of the class and thus leaving a lot of people behind in the conversation? Or do we still stick with some of the fundamentals and the basics? And my reasoning for sticking with the fundamentals is because I feel like the activity level is not there to succeed. And so my thought process is until the activity level is there, there's really no room for conversation number two. Like, if you're not going to put in enough effort to win, then none of that other stuff really matters. So for the last 6 months, I've been talking a lot about like mental health and getting over depression and just like getting away from Netflix and just getting out of the house, which does seem super basic. And then now I'm trying to display leadership with my health journey of just like, hey, I'm trying to get my energy level up to where I can win at a high level and not sit around in front of the screen. And so I don't know what's right or wrong there, but like, would you prefer a leader to really like push your thinking and push you outside? And like, is that going to get you to actually work harder? Or is it just like, let's just beat this stick to death? And until you literally like start putting in the hours, like you want to make 6 figures, but you're only working, probably, I mean, how, like, if you look at your average agent, I would argue that most of them only work about 6 months out of the year. And like, how do you expect to be a top 5 or top 10% income earner in the world when you're only putting in 40% of the effort at best? and that just bothers me. Like, and so I think I think it comes through, and like, I don't want to be cynical with people, but I'm like, dude, get off your freaking ass and like go out there and turn over some rocks. Like,
Exactly.
so I'd love to
And,
hear a
and
perspective.
Daniel, don't worry about it. Just go out and close 3 deals and say, hey, you can do this as well as I can. You know, the difference between me and you is that I wake up and I get more done before noon than you do Monday through Wednesday. Well, and they have to look at you and say, you know what, he's right. Well, do something about it.
I think, Daniel, the other thing too is, and I'm going to go down to Gary here, because Gary has had to make some decisions with the people that he was in business with last year. And Gary, what I know you got an opinion on this. This is right up your alley, that it's okay to get out of business with people.
Yeah, so, you know, listening intently, and that's something that I tend to like to do. I think the problem, and this is not just a Daniel thing, every one of us goes through this. There's a few things. So, and this will be a bit of a long answer. So bear with me, because Gashley and Daniel and reading, he said the one thing that I think was most critical. Don't make it about you, right? Make it about what you have to be if you want to be a success. And that's not me, it's you. So I'll talk about even on our team. Yes, we've exited out of relationships, and I coach my team explicitly on know your avatar. Do not go out there thinking that you have to have that sign on the lawn. I'm like, guys, and I let them learn the hard way. If they don't want to listen to me, then just go out and do it the way you want to do it. And then they all come back and go, holy shit, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. What a nightmare. And I'm like, it's all avoidable as long as you sign up and look at the playbook and then go out on the field and run the play that way. It'll work. You know, and I think like even for us, I see problems in deals in the industry, right? So on say like any listing I go through, almost always there's mistakes, and often very critical mistakes in the listing. And then as far as our team goes, and this might be for you, Daniel, there's no opt-in or opt-out. You can either be a part of the team or not. Like, I frankly don't care. We qualify you to be the best you can be here. And the thing I do, and I do it myself, and I don't have to, but, you know, I think one of the things that I wanted to say too is the entitlement factor is so alive and rampant and toxic in every facet of everybody's life. And particularly, you know, I'll speak to the real estate, and I'll wrap as quick as I can, but even on our team, you know, I was noticing problems with deals getting written up that I review. And I'm like, okay, this is simple stuff that these guys are missing. 9 times out of 10, I know they're just going too quickly and not taking it seriously. And it applies to everything, right? So what I did at Christmas, I said to the team, guess what, guys? First 10 weeks of the year, we're doing a mock offer every week. And Brad Chisholm sits in on those meetings, and he knows we're doing it. And, you know, what I point out to everybody, because they all complain, you know, I don't have time, I've got an event, it's this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay, so I said, you know, I just go from a place of, guys, if you can't do this here where it's going to create the best version of yourself, I said, and really, you're right, it doesn't matter here. But I said, go out and tell a buyer or a seller exactly what you're telling me and watch what happens. You're going to go out of business, and or you're going to get sued, and or you're going to lose your license because you're incompetent. And, you know, I don't take my personal energy into that. I just say, guys, you can either be the problem in the industry or be the solution in the industry. And I would much rather see you be the solution than the problem, right? Just make a choice, you know, and if you don't like our rules here, which they're not even rules, it's macro thinking, it's just simple. Tell me you don't want to be here, or otherwise keep doing what you're doing so I can ask you not to be here. And then I don't take any of it personally. You know, I'm long past that now. You know, I will say to Gina, because she's on the team with me, you know, I see this challenge, that challenge with a person, and I just want to exit out of the relationship, but we have to think macro. Let time do its favors for you, because otherwise, if we make it about our agenda, it's always going to end one way or another that you are at fault, right? So keep yourself on the fence and just look over both yards at the same time and do the best job you can. Daniel, you're a smart guy. You're successful. You know, just let those people worm their way out of your organization, and having somebody where you talk to only the top. So, you know, I'll speak to that quickly. I managed a team that had on average between 30 and 40 agents, and you can't talk to everybody all at the same time. We definitely gave everybody an allotment of time to have conversations with us, short of, you know, when there's a deal on the go that has fire in its hair, then, you know, obviously we have to drop everything and manage those deals through because it's about the client. But everything else is, guys, here's a playbook. We created a playbook. You can either be a part of that playbook, go out in the field and play here, or go and do it on your own. It's just that simple, and take our emotions out of it. Long answer, but you know, that's just how I see
We
things.
love you for it. We love your long answers.
Yeah.
I'm long too. I think too, standards are okay, right? And when they see you holding people to those standards, and all of a sudden somebody's off the team because they didn't meet the minimum standard, then they go, oh, okay, it's time to get going, right? Speed the leader, speed the back. So you go. I say teach to the fastest person, and let the rest figure it out, because I don't have time to compensate for every single person who's not as capable as the others. And the rest of them will either figure it out and get, you know, find pace, or they get off. And I'm going to ask you this. Does the team really have enough production for 30 agents? Or would some of them be happier if there were 15 agents with double the amount of production, right? If you're distributing the lead. So maybe that's the, you know, the other part of it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. The answer is absolutely not. The production is a fraction of what it should be, which then, you know, I take on the chin as like a leadership issue, right? Which is where really this question's coming from. And I've always ran a bigger team because I felt like you need to spread out your risks. So I've been out of production for 8 or 9 years and running the team as the CEO and other companies. And so I feel like to find those gems, you kind of have to have a bigger sample pool. And sometimes you're wrong, right? You see someone that comes through and you're like, there's no way this guy's going to make it. And then he becomes a top performer. You know, and there's other people like interview well and you think they're going to crush it, and then they just don't show up. And so because of those inconsistencies, I've always tried to bring more people into the organization and see who shows up. But at the same time, I mean, and then the other factor, which we all kind of have to deal with, is then you're also playing the revenue share card. So it's like you're trying to bring people, you're trying to be a magnet and give people space to succeed at their pace. However,
but I'm going to say this to you. How many teams are there in your area that I mean, think of it like sports, right? It's like, hey, maybe you're not a fit for the Dallas Cowboys anymore, which is not a good, or, you know, let's go with Kansas City, who actually wins shit. But you're fit for, you know, Detroit or Chicago or whatever. So if you start treating the team like that and go, hey, there's a trade happening, or you're going to be a free agent, right? Like all of a sudden there's this fear that, you know, I have to perform. And that is most of the time a much bigger motivation than somebody just, you know, trying to love them through it.
I think another very important point, Ashley, is that if you join EXP today, one leg up that you've got over existing agents is that you qualify fully down to your 3rd level. And that could be a major setup for a new agent, because you could bring in 1 or 2 agents and they bring in 5 apiece, and you get paid full enchilada on all of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
so what you're talking about is I love all of this. And I mean, I'm looking at time here, you guys, and this is great conversations. Daniel, what I like about this is there are people on this call who are brand new, and may have never been on a team, or they're on a team or thinking about going on a team. And it gives them pause to say, okay, if I'm on a team, am I performing at the right level? If I want to be on a team, how do I search out the right team? Am I going to have a leader that really cares? And once you start dumbing it down, you're going to lose your high performers. So, and if you let the team know, hey guys, there's going to be some trades here, there's going to be some free agents here, that also works. Everybody collectively here has got so much to offer. And if anyone's thinking about a team. So what's the question here? Do you have any fundamental training? Are you asking Daniel that question? Or just the group?
I just want to ask the group, as I'm in a team, but I kind of feel like I don't have the enough of instruction, as to understand like what are you gonna do as a team. And right now there is two brand new agents because I just instruct them and supporting them, and they say like, can you help me? And then I say, yes, I can. But myself, I don't even experience what is really a team and what is a team leader supposed to do to helping other team members. So I kind of reach out to ask if anybody have any fundamental training or agenda, being a team leader that you will teach your team members.
Can you just clarify, one, where are you located? And do you run the team or are you on a team?
I'm in a team right now. I'm
You're
on
on
a
a team?
No?
Okay.
Yes, but I feel like I don't experience, we don't really have team meeting very much at all. And yeah, I mean like I kind of just kind of asking my team leaders like, I don't feel it a team yet. Can you show me more? So I experience it. So later in the future, if I have a team, then I can teach my team member, and I have a structures for that too. So yeah, so when you guys talking about this, and I'm just like, all right, I want to know how you run as a team leader, or what is your definition of a team should be, and what activity should be, so that way I can help other.
That's a great question. Are you a new agent?
I'm in my third year.
Third year. Okay. And where are you located?
In Omaha, Nebraska.
In Omaha. Okay, welcome. So you're an actual member of a team where they support you and you share your commissions with them and they do training and things like that?
Yes, at the beginning we have our agreement, like the sharing at the beginning, but now more than she's supporting me, and whenever I have a question, I will come to her as like, hey, what I'm gonna do in this situation. And she does, like sometimes we sit down and say, talking about a game plan. But I mean, in terms of like function as a team, like, because I'm thinking when you have a team, you do have a team meeting, you do have like that is my expectation, like a team meeting every so often, and have like a kind of like a direction. So right now I'm just like, I'm doing all right, but I feel like I'm more like individuals agents more than
An individual agent. So Lee, if you want to take my phone number down, because that's a really long question and I want to give you the attention on it. It's 860, and anybody else who needs it, 860-638-7944.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank-
Ash. But then shoot me a text and just send me some basic information, what team you're on, where you are in your production. Stacy, goodbye. So put this in. I love these meetings sometimes because all these great little conversations come up that we're not really sure where we're, they lead us down a different path, but they're great, great questions with self-discovery. Does anybody have any objections because we said we would handle your objections today? Who wants to throw something at us that you're struggling with or that you hear all the time? And either myself or Ashley, or I know some other people will jump in on this. So you all are handling all your attraction objections. Okay. Let's see.
I saw that Samia wrote in the chat very early on. What do you say when somebody says that they are a 10 plus and happy where they are? I think that was Samia who wrote that.
It's Samia. Thank you, Kevin.
Samia? Mhm.
I just removed it because it's a longer conversation.
Okay, I saw that.
The question was, you meet with a great agent that you think would be the right culture, from the right culture for EXP. I almost said KW.
We do that.
And and they say, oh yes, when I was here, KW recruited me and and now I'm at Compass and I'm happy. And I say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is your business? She goes, I'm always a 10. I'm like, okay, what would make it a 10 plus? And it's nothing that I can go back. I mean, some of it is like she has grandchildren now. And so, other than asking that question and finding out she needs more time off, but she can't because she has grandchildren. How do you handle the people that are thoroughly happy?
Great
and
question.
maybe on a scale of 8 or 9 or 10?
So I would say, oh my gosh, I love talking to happy agents. There's nothing better than sitting down with an agent who's happy because, sometimes I get agents who come here and all they do is bitch at me. So tell me, what makes you so happy? And then be quiet. And then chunk it down. Well, I love my broker. Great. Tell me more about your broker. What do you love about them? Oh, well, they're always in the office. I can always get a hold of them. Okay, fantastic. Let me ask you something. Does your broker list and sell? Yeah, they do. Oh, does your broker do that when they're working? Well, yeah, sometimes they do. So what I do is I take what they say to me, and then I just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I also say to them, so let me ask you something. Just tell me about your broker. So do you think if your broker had an opportunity that was going to benefit their family and really help their family, do you think that your broker's going to come and talk to you about it? Do you think your broker ever goes and looks at other opportunities? Because I'm sure your broker's really happy with all of you. However, if there was a better opportunity out there, do you think your broker would talk to somebody else? So if you just kind of chunk it down and say, what makes it a 10? And then the other thing I ask them, say, I hear so many agents say it's a 10, but there's always something you can change. You've got to get excited.
Yeah. I even asked her because she's in luxury. And I said, and I knew the answer. I said, so Compass, do they pay for your marketing for your luxury listings? Oh, we do our own marketing. We're all set up with our marketing. And I'm like, okay, I didn't want it to be a selling an EXP dumping on her. And I said, oh, that's great. Glad to hear it. At EXP, they do this for me and I'm just delighted with it. And I just move on. I just drop it and move on. And then maybe I'll follow up and say, hey, I just want you to share. I want to share where we market. Do you get exposure like this? I don't know.
So first of all, it depends how deep of a relationship you're in with them. I never talk EXP on the first one. And I didn't do it when I was at Keller Williams. I can.
Well, it's just because I just changed, so she knew me from
you're
before.
having some opportunity. They let them ask the questions.
Yeah.
But I always ask this question. I'm sure it's a 10, but let's face it, there's always a little bit of room for improvement. So if there were 3 things that could be improved to bring it way over 10, what would those 3 things be? And then just let them talk, because their 10 is going to start to drop. I guarantee you. And they don't expect you to ask those deep questions. They expect you just to move on and go, oh, it's a 10. Well, she's never going to move, or she's not going to ask me, or he or she's not going to ask me these questions. So chunk it down as much as you can. Ash.
Well, I was just going to throw in there those 3 things. Like, she gave you one with her being a grandparent, right? That's important to her. She would love to have the time off. So that's the opportunity to go, is Compass giving you a way for you to leave a legacy for your grandkids? Compass giving you a way for you to be able to support your grandkids when you're not here anymore? Is Compass giving you a way to have more time with them because somebody else is able to, you know, help you with your business or build a team, or, you know, whatever that's the opportunity, is to figure out what those 3 things are. And I think it's most important to find the things exactly like that are not tied to transactions, marketing, you know, specific tangibles about every brokerage provides in some way, shape, or form, right? It's finding the niche that is different for them. And how do you solve that at a higher level here than where they're at now? And so, yeah, she might be and the grandkids thing is time and money. And so what is
her daughter who has the babies is on her team as well.
Well, so even more important, the mom is, you know, like, she's conditioned or tied to her success too. So to me, I'd even make it about the money of, you know, their current production, looking at the difference in the financials of at luxury, and most people with Compass, they're on a high split, sure, but it's perpetual. So how much more money could she be making on a cap model versus, you know?
And I even brought up the global marketing agent conversation because she goes, oh, I don't want to move. I said, this is not EXP limited. You could join and network and expose your listings internationally by being part of this group. So I always bring that in as just a give me, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
I always ask, when people say they love their broker, I'll be like, oh, that's cool, me too. So do you guys travel together? I'll be like, no. I'll say, so do they like come to your kids' birthdays and you guys hang out a lot? And they're like, no. Like, oh, okay. So it's kind of more like a business relationship. And they're like, yeah, I guess so. Like, so did your broker sit down and write out your business plan for you this year? Are they holding you accountable to your goals? And they're like, no. Like, okay. So you like them, but they're not really like leading you necessarily. And they're like, no. So you got to just like pick at it a little bit to get them to realize, like, hey, they're actually just my broker, which is actually a legal role. It's not most of the time a leadership role. But stick a little bit in that relationship, because the broker, I mean, we all know, like, the brokers like us, we like them, but it's not the relationship that we sometimes make it out to be.
Oh yeah. So
Does
many
else? Oh, sorry.
So many people, when I was recruiting at Keller Williams, which at the time was Keller Who, it'd say, oh, I love my broker. And back then, nobody moved. 2001, nobody moved in the Bay Area. Everybody was at Remax, Coldwell Banker, Prudential, you know, C21 somewhere. But, you know, they were still here and had a presence in different areas. But, you know, and then when the broker passes away or moves, they go, okay, now what? You know,
so
like, may I ask you a hypothetical question? You know, I know you like your broker, and I'm sure they like you too, but if your broker got another opportunity, do you think that they would take that, or would they stay here just to stay in relationship with you?
Yeah,
exactly what I was saying earlier. You're right, Daniel.
That's a great point.
You have to turn it around. You know, do you
especially
know
now with people moving, managers are moving
all the time? So is there anything, I know we're at 7:02, well, it's 7:02 my time. I think it's a little bit later with you guys, and the sun, I finally got light here. Is there any one quick question that somebody's struggling with, or again, you can call me. All right, next
Thank you,
week,
everybody.
I am in Hawaii next week. So it is up to you guys if you want to have this meeting and if someone wants to run it, because I love you, but 4 a.m. I tried it last year and it was just like, so what's the group consensus? What would you like to do? Not have it?
I would
Ashley,
skip it.
skip it. Ashley, what are you thinking?
I'm fine either way. If y'all want to do it, and I can lead it, and someone can lead
Okay.
it with me, or
Good.
you guys can pick a topic and we'll go through it, or whatever you guys want to do. I'll be here.
So I love that because I don't want to stop the momentum, and let's keep it going. And then the following week, I will have all the good tidbits from what went on in Maui. And Dee Dee's clapping her hands there. So yeah, so let's just roll with it. And you know, if I wake up, and you know I'll jump on.
I was gonna say she's gonna be here. She says that every time, and then she does it. Don't believe anything.
So
Hey,
Ashley,
Ashley?
Yes,
Ashley.
ma'am.
If you want, I will lead with you. I've been wanting to do a talk about leading with grace. And
Oh,
after
I like
today's
that.
conversation, it would be really cool to do that.
I like that. I'm good at grace. A lot of people aren't good at grace. I'm good at grace.
so great. That's
I am too.
on it. I want to hear this topic.
I guess we have to record it. And then you can get
Hey.
your beauty sleep.
I just won't let her in next week. How about that?
You guys
All
are
right, I'm driving.
all right.
Declined.
I'm
gotta
driving
go.
in the rain. Gotta go.
Bye. That
That
sounds
would be
great.
really mean,
care.
Ashley, if she wakes up early and you won't let her in. That would be really
Hey, I love her, but
You did that to me. You've done that to me.
I would. I so would. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye, guys. Have a great
Bye,
week.
y'all. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the attention today.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Thanks for the
volunteering.
contribution. Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
y'all.